Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome everybody to Discover Hospitality, second episode in the series where we discover the hidden jobs and careers in the hospitality industry and share career advice for students, graduates, those of us with a few years of experience, and anyone else in the hospitality industry. I am your host, Maria Malaniia, a hospitality graduate, a guest experience and hospitality brand specialist, and a founder of Savvy Hotelier, a place where hospitality students can ask questions and find resources for their studies and beyond. So the reason I started Savvy Hotelier was, and this series with WHTT is a personal passion for uncovering those hidden parts of the hospitality industry. I want to show what is really possible for each and every one of us in this wonderful industry. Discover Hospitality series dives into areas of events, tourism, wine, entrepreneurship, hotels, restaurants, and much more. Make sure you follow WHTT and Savvy Hotelier to not miss the upcoming themed events every Thursday here on WHTT Live. So today's event is all about entrepreneurship in hospitality. And with me today, I have three amazing panelists to help us discover what's possible in the hospitality industry and what does entrepreneurship really look like, and as well also what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Of course, everyone, I encourage you to pop your questions to the panelists throughout the discussion, and we'll make sure to take some time to address them. We want you to get the most out of this discussion. So without further ado, let's meet the panel. First up, we have Anna Kruusi, an event planner, business strategist, and marketing pro who comes from a hardworking hospitality background and is on the road to owning several of her own businesses. She's based in Ontario, Canada. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Great to have you. And also, then we have Marianna Alfa, founder of Blossom Hospitality, executive coach, hospitality expert, and a new author of Blossom, Coach Yourself to Success. Marianna worked her way up in F&B sector and today helps hospitaliers and others alike to live their best lives. Great to have you, Marianna.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Amazing. And also, of course, our final guest is reinventing hospitality education, Patricia Iinuma, managing director at the new hospitality school called hotel.school, an online learning platform with self-paced hospitality industry courses. Coming from a family of entrepreneurs, Patricia embodied the mindset of an entrepreneur throughout her career in corporate hospitality. So great to have you with us, Patricia.
Great to be here. Hi, Maria. Hi, Anna. Hi, Marianna. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for volunteering your time, for sharing your stories, and helping many hospitaliers explore the opportunities hidden in plain sight. So I want to kick off this panel with a quick question for each and one of you. When did you have your aha moment that kind of pushed you to take the leap to start your own venture? Was it something that happened recently, or did you kind of always want to be your own boss? Anna, do you want to start?
Sure. So my journey is quite a long one. I started in hospitality when I was 15, and it was kind of part of my life for a very long time until I started trying everything. I went to school in hospitality. I got my diploma, and then I got into management and leadership very quickly. Fell absolutely in love with it, and it became part of my life. And from there, I, totally dove in. I became super passionate about it, but I kept feeling this pull to do something more. After a few years in management, I found my place in events where I managed a team of 60, I still do, of food and beverage servers, bartenders, as well as I manage the floor, I plan events, et cetera, et cetera. And that actually empowered me to go into my own business. From that job, I was able to do a lot of things in marketing and sales. And after a long mental health journey, some traveling, I decided to dive in to my own business. So during the day, I'm on the computer where I offer marketing and sales services to hospitality and event professionals. And in the evening, I work events, I do weddings, and everything that hospitality and events is basically about.
Fantastic. Well, that's really definitely always been there for you at some point. Patricia, so this entrepreneurship thing didn't happen to you until recently, did it?
No, actually, entrepreneurship, I was invited to join. I think we were talking before. I actually run away from being an entrepreneur most of my life because, like you mentioned in the beginning, my family, my parent is an entrepreneur at one point in Brazil, employing quite a lot of people, and I've always seen the sacrifice. I've seen the responsibility. I've seen sometimes the pain when it doesn't go well, and you have to close businesses. So I remember my father always telling me, go and learn with other people's money. And so I spent 14, almost 15 years working in corporate. So I worked for Hyatt Hotels on property and in corporate. And then lastly, I worked for one of the largest private education group in Switzerland, managing marketing and communication for the group. So at one point, also I had a huge team and budgets. And your question was, when did this come, when the aha? And I didn't have an aha moment necessarily to be an entrepreneur, but I had an aha moment where I got disillusioned with corporate, not particularly the company that I was with. That is not at all what I'm saying. But I think at one point, I'm 40 now. I wanted to do more. I wanted to work. I wanted to feel the sense of purpose of a company. I think that a company today, or can be one employee, you can be 1,000 of employees. You need to have a sense of purpose and a sense of responsibility. And so I knew I needed something like that, something that could really help and do good. And in hotel.school, we subscribe to the mantra of doing well by doing good. So this is something that is really dear to my heart. And the fact that you're able to control this, really appeals to me with having our own company. In my case, I was invited to entrepreneurship. I say this because really I am not the one who came up with the concept of hotel.school. There is I have 2 founding partners. They're amazing, but it is true that I am basically before the launch and before the beginning, and now it is mine, and it is theirs as well, if in case they're watching. But then I realized that I actually have my entire career have traits and skills of an entrepreneur without knowing, and I know we'll talk about this later, but yes, I was invited to be an entrepreneur, and I'm very happy to be here.
That's great. That's a brilliant example. And like you said, we'll dive into that a bit more of how it kind of just comes to you sometimes. And it comes in different shapes. It doesn't have to be literally starting your own business, physical business. So Marianna, why don't you tell us a bit about how you came to be your own boss?
Well, one thing is for sure, I never really planned it. I never actually really wanted to be one. Maybe similarly to Patricia, my dad used to be a freelancer and always made the whole family nervous, not knowing what his monthly paycheck will be, not having that financial security always, or, a years of adapting to that whole kind of, up and down inconsistent income while you kicking off the business. So I never really felt that that's my forte. I never really felt that that's what I want to do. I always wanted the financial security. I always liked my weekly or monthly paycheck, and I always knew how much it is, and I could plan and I could strategize with it, whatever I want. But I guess the aha moment came when I just ran out of options. I had to start listening to my inner voice, and after I interviewed with several companies through my journey from being a bartender, a waitress, to a vice president of a global hotel company, I started interviewing for several similar roles, and always thought what my next step is. And more I started realizing that I'm not really being true to myself anymore, even through those interviews, that something was missing, and that there's so much more that I could give than what that job requirement actually framed me into. And then I had that aha moment saying, I need to create what I want to give out, what I want to share, what I want to contribute to the human beings, to this business, to hospitality, and who I want to include in my journey. So it was that aha moment that I actually had no choice. All of a sudden, the other choices were not good enough or didn't make me excited enough. Although the entrepreneurial choice was a huge unknown, and it was a nerve-wracking process to even acknowledge, from the first visit to an accountant to actually ask what's the difference between self-employed and LTD. to actually start building your website, not knowing even where to start. You actually have to do the whole thing yourself. So yeah, I think aha moment was though that there was no other option, and it was just so empowering to be able to create what I want and who I am, and just put it out there.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic, and we have three very different stories to tell and very different examples of what it means to be entrepreneur, what it looks like, and how you get there. And the question I want to kind of answer to start with is, are you a born entrepreneur or can you become one? And by the looks of your stories, it's both. It depends on who you are and what stage in life you're at. And sometimes it comes to a bit later in life when you want something more. Sometimes you already know you want it, you don't know what it is, right? So we are kind of, I would say there is no perfect solution. And I myself was never necessarily interested in entrepreneurship. But when I had an idea of something I want to do, I thought, well, I'll try it and see how it goes. And you can do both at the same time. You don't have to quit your job to be an entrepreneur. There are other things that you can balance the two. And Anna, you're a perfect example of that. You literally have, what, 3-4 jobs?
Now, two of the three are for myself, so it's a little bit easier to manage. But yes, always working 3 or 4 jobs at one time.
So yeah, it's not an easy life, that's for sure. It takes lots of risks, it takes lots of sacrifice, and whether that's your time, whether that's money, or some other things. And we have a brilliant question already from an audience. How do you manage the risks, especially at the beginning? Ooh, Marianna? That was a big risk for you. I know, I read your lovely book. So tell us a bit more.
It was a huge risk, and I don't even think I fully knew, and I don't even think I was fully aware how risky it is until I was deep into it. And you know, I think it was a hard, difficult decision to quit the big VP job, to quit the title that came with a little bit of ego, that came with who I was and who I've built myself to be. You know, when I was born in Slovakia and I was 22 when I left for US, and you know, I got into hospitality by just lying about knowing how to bartend, just because I wanted to work in this beautiful restaurant so badly, that I decided that they gave me that I was supposed to start in 5 days, and I've managed to learn how to bartend, a crash course, in 5 days. So when I started my own business, it wasn't anything that I necessarily planned. I just had no other choice. And the risk was that there's going to be no income, that I don't really know what I'm doing. But I kept having this strong belief and trust in myself, looking back at the 20 years of my career and of every step that happened for a reason. And I've always believed that when the door opens, at least you have to do is walk in to see what's on the other side. So I keep always asking everything I do, does this help me, or does this harm me? Or what's the worst that can happen? I'll just look for a job. And as a matter of fact, my whole first year of having my own business, I still had it in the back of my mind that, all right, well, I'm going to give it another month or another 3 months or another 6 months, and then I'm going to just look for a job again. So you always have a backup plan, but the risk is something that is also the adrenaline and the actual driving force behind that pushes you to keep going through this unknown territory. You know, I worked with lots of corporates where everything was taken care of for you. Something happened with your IT equipment, with your computer. Oh, IT director just came and fixed it for you. You know, something happened with this and that. Somebody came and fixed it. Now I have to do everything by myself. My accounts, my IT, my marketing, my everything. And I think it's that new challenge that actually keeps you pushing you forward. So the risks become actually a little irrelevant. You just keep mastering one after another. And like you said to your previous question, I don't know if people are really born to be entrepreneurs. I think we're born with certain talents that it's good that we acknowledge at some point in our life. I think we acquire skill sets by being fearless and taking the opportunities that present themselves to us. And I think it's that building mindset that drives us through the risky parts, the risky situations, and this building mindsets really happens based on aspirations and inspirations through the life. So it was time for me to say, if I don't try, I'm just not going to know. If I don't create my own happiness and who I want to be next, then who else is going to do it? Just following that sense of fulfillment. And then the risks are there, but the support mechanisms are always there as well,
and the risks are worth it.
The risks are worth it. And it's, nobody accomplished anything without taking those risks. That's one thing for sure. So it's a little bit, I use the coaching on myself when talking about risks. I always ask myself the deep questions, and I wrote it down, and I wrote my own answers down to be able to make sure that I remind myself of that. What's really the worst that will happen? And if that does happen, what do I do? So I had a little bit of a roadmap, expecting the worst might happen, but until that happens, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. And the truth is that it's a lot of risk to quit your job and start your own business, or start your own business at the same time as doing a really demanding job, or whatever the balance is in your life. It's risky, but life is risky generally. Keeping the same job for 5-10 years or working for the same company is equally risky, because you're always at the risk of being made redundant, which many people have unfortunately experienced recently. And not that anyone knew what would happen last year, but there's still risk in everything we do and don't do, right? So I want to kind of pose a question to Patricia here. Is, you grew up in an entrepreneurial household, but you were told to avoid it in a way that, because it's too risky, because there's so much volatility involved. Can you kind of share more about your upbringing, and what can we learn from entrepreneurs? Like, what makes them, or yourselves, different in terms of the skills, attitudes, and mindsets that maybe we can apply to our full-time jobs, for those of us who have it?
Well, thank you for the question. I think in terms of skills, just going back to the basic skills, I, along with Marianna, spent a long time in a world where I had never done my own, I don't know, it sounds so silly, but basic things. Like I knew how to manage a social media team, but I didn't necessarily myself got in there and did the posts myself or the ads myself. I know how to do even basic things like printing and scanning. I know how to do that, but there's even limitations. You think I should know more. I'm 40 years old. I have a lot of experience in office, in office work. And I think that those are basic skills. That's literally not going to make or break it. But I think that the confidence that comes, and I did have to learn a couple of skills. I'm thinking Adobe editor, like how to edit a PDF. I'm thinking how to make certain, some basic things for my business. I think I had to know, and that gave me a bit of calm and tranquility. In terms of what skills, and I realized, like I said before, that I have this spirit in me, and being an entrepreneur, this is definitely something that describes me, and that's what I always was, which is basically, I always felt that Hyatt's money or SCG money, where I worked before, this was my money. So I always felt it was a sense of responsibility for that part of the business that was given to me to take care of. So whatever it is, an apartment or a hotel, and I think. And integrity. I think that there's the values of a company, and there's your personal values, and I think those. If at one point you see that that's not aligning anymore, that's also a moment to leave and to not to stay and to take the risk. But I think that in terms of what I learned in corporate, that I think can help anyone in their own business, is surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And very often the less smart people in the room, and I'm okay with that. Find a mentor if you can, and mentor someone, passing the good forward. I was so lucky and so blessed really to have people who took time, who didn't have to do that, who were a couple of pay grades beyond me and took time to coach me. And I was very, I paid a lot of attention to always take time for whatever team or whoever I was managing. Even when I was a supervisor, your first year, you always have something that you can teach. You always have something that you can learn. I think that open-minded is very important for an entrepreneur. And I think in a way, you said, how do you plan for the risk? I am living this right now. And I think that this I also recommend is it's a mental game right now, right? I think there's managing risk. Like Marianna, I walked away from a very good salary. And yes, there is an element of ego, and you have a nice title, and when you call whatever it is that you're calling for service, any software company, and you're treated differently. So having to take that, but I think I personally don't like I maybe I have an even naive outlook, because I don't see how this is not going to succeed. I believe in what I'm doing. I absolutely believe in the product and the people who are involved in the problem that we're solving for the industry today. So I don't know how this is not going to happen, not going to be successful. That said, I also gave myself, and I think when our team were very honest with each other and saying, look, there is going to be at least a couple of years or a year until I can make my old salary again. And this is something that I think we need to take back and say, okay, how do I do this? I do think, and I know of stories, and you read the stories of people, I had $1 and now I own, I don't know, Apple. This is not going to be my story, because I am not comfortable with that. So I think also there's different types of entrepreneur and different types of risk. I have a son, I have a family, so I need to make sure they're provided for, and then I can, focus on my business without the anxiety of the financial bit. And I think that's important. It has to be a little bit beyond financial. If at least that's what I believe. If you're gonna succeed, I don't even think I answered your question. Did I? All of you are looking at it.
I love it. I'd love to chime in, actually, just talking about risk, because I totally resonate with what you're both saying. And for me, from my perspective of going in, to not one, but 2 or 3 businesses in the last 3 years, as well as still maintaining a very important full-time job at a non-for-profit organization, there's a lot of risk there, and a lot of time, very late nights and very, very early mornings. We're just talking about the 5 a.m. morning, and I'm on that train right now. But for me, risk, as much as it's terrifying and it's scary and it can keep you up at night, it's actually it's almost the fuel that drives you. Like in hospitality and events, I like to say we're all adrenaline junkies. We're surrounded by beautiful hotels and restaurants and weddings and celebrations and incredible people, that it's that adrenaline. And when there's risk, and when, you have to serve a party of 600 people in 45 minutes, you get that adrenaline rush. And I find the risk now as an entrepreneur is the same adrenaline. You just get it every day.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a good comparison as well, because every day is a day where you either make money or don't make money, or you do something towards that, and you have to keep moving forward. Yeah, the risks are always there. I think if you don't take the leap, the risk is that you might be miserable in your job. And
Yeah.
is that better than
it forces you to be ambitious.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's about what you want as well, being happy with where you are as well. And actually, to you, Anna, as well, because your entrepreneurial journey started quite early. You kind of wanted to do something always. You mentioned to me that in your hospitality education, you had a teacher who inspired you to do more, to go beyond the sort of prescription of hospitality, of go get a job and just do that. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? Because my experience was kind of obviously very different, depends on the teachers, depends on the university you go to, and obviously yourself. If you could share that would be great.
Definitely, yeah. So I'm lucky to live in Niagara, where it is food and beverage capital of Ontario. It's the hidden gem, and we're wine country. So we actually have we have 2 local schools here that actually have a hospitality department. So I'm very lucky to live here, and that's where I attended. I never knew I was actually going to go to college or university, but I ended up loving it. It was my favorite part of my school journey, and because I got to learn what I wanted to learn about. And for me, we were talking about risk, is that there was no other option. I knew this was the industry I was going to be in. And a lot of the programs are built around it's this way or that way. And I had a teacher who told me it's not black or white, it's gray, because hospitality changes every single day and you have to keep up with the trends. But as much as it's such a large and vast industry, you can also make it your own. And he pushed us like way beyond. He inspired us every day. He would give 2-hour lectures and you would be like totally entranced the entire time. And I actually was one of those first students to go to the Disney education program, where you spend a week at Disney and you get to do the hospitality workshops. So I was one of the first students to go to that program out of my school. And he took us there, and it was totally amazing because it definitely helped us see all the avenues we can take, whether you want to become the CEO of Disney, or if you want to become your own Disney. There's so many avenues you can take.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Yeah. It's nice to have that bit of inspiration and confidence, especially if you already kind of have questions and you're interested. It's you kind of, I guess, if you don't have that sort of teacher in your education, or you don't have that in your life currently, just seek out, right? Reach out to any of these panelists. They'll probably speak with you and give you some advice and a bit of that drive and passion and inspiration, and find mentors, or even just follow people that are doing what you want to do. That way you can get a bit confident in that it is possible for everyone, whatever it is that you want to do, right? Fantastic. So actually, I want to get back to Marianna quickly. Your first experience of entrepreneurship wasn't actually the thing you're doing now. It was something that was, I would say, thrown at you in a way, because you were given a job of a general manager of a restaurant for Alain Ducasse, which is a big, big deal. And they basically made you run the whole thing, which is made it, you had to own the thing, which was your restaurant. Just happened to have someone else's name on it in a way. Can you tell us a bit about that experience? Like, what made you successful and how did you manage that new challenge?
Yes, that definitely was a huge, and you really picked it right there from my book. It was a true entrepreneurial experience for me, a first one. Number one is that I ended up in that position because I was given this huge amount of trust and empowerment. I was being empowered. I was a hotelier before, running several food and beverage departments. And I was being told so many times that I'm not exactly a restaurateur. Yet my personality and my drive and my passion spoke for itself. And I was approached about this huge, gigantic position. And, this was back in Washington, D.C., where there were no Michelin stars. There was no, the level of restaurant fine dining scene wasn't like the elsewhere big cities in the world. And I was still given this opportunity. So it made me think of not my experience, but really my skill set and how I'm contributing with my personality into hospitality. And there was nothing I couldn't accomplish. There was nothing I couldn't have done. So I think what made me successful in that role was not only the circumstances, actually. The harder they become, the more you actually end up doing, and the more you end up shining, which actually these times that we're going through the pandemic is a great, perfect example of how you can actually be pushed to the limits, and not even to the limits. The sky has no limits. The only sky is the limit. But how can you actually really, really go to levels that you never thought you would? This specifically situation is more about our resilience and how do we elevate ourselves and innovate ourselves above the things we can and can't control. But for me, in 2008, while I opened a restaurant of Alain Ducasse, I had to reconcept it 3 months later because of the big global recession. And what I had to literally watch every penny spent, every expense. The P&L statement was like my Bible every day. Every day was about controlling every hour of the labor I could save, I could invest. It was just that full ownership, and it was the pride I felt as well, working for such a brand, being part of this restaurant empire of Alain Ducasse, knowing he had 33 successful restaurants around the world. I had to make mine successful as well. Recession or no recession, different concept, doesn't matter. There wasn't a question about that. This is not going to be a success. For me, it had to be a success. For me, I wanted to be remembered as the person who made it successful. And I wanted I wanted the company to be proud of me and just really deliver. And that wouldn't happen without taking full ownership and really pretending, like Patricia said, not pretending, but really having that feeling that it is my restaurant. My money is not in it, but it is my restaurant. It's my baby. I gave it a birth. I opened it, and I'm going to teach it how to walk, and I'm going to teach it everything else, and I'm going to make it grow as it's supposed to grow. And there was no other noise or questions around it. It was just I knew that I have support mechanisms and teams that have been doing this successfully around the world. So I just had to rely on them a little bit. And that trust and empowerment that I received from them was my biggest driver. They knew that I'm going to make it happen. And for me, I just was going above and beyond every single day.
That's fantastic. Exactly. It's going all in. You really don't. The failure is not an option, right? At this point, especially. And so you don't think about, oh, it's okay if we don't break even today. Like, you have to break even today, regardless of what happens. And so you find ways to go about, and you have to be extremely creative. And I find that when you have a lot going on, you kind of, I guess, almost depends on every person, but you manage things better, more efficiently. You are more creative because you have less time to solve the problem, so you don't have time to contemplate, and you just go for the solve and you do the thing. And we have an amazing question from several people who want to know this, from Katrina, Rita, and Daniela as well. Being entrepreneur, running your own restaurant, even if it's Valenticas, or running two of your own businesses while having a full-time job, or whatever is the thing you do, it's a lot. It's a lot on yourself, physically, mentally, obviously, just expectations, and wanting it to succeed, whatever it is. How do you turn off? Like, it's hard to turn off for me on a normal day, to be honest, and especially when you have a full-time job or you want to do something on the side. What are some of your tips? Go for it. Share.
Just real quick, you don't have to turn off.
You don't turn off.
If you love what you do, it never feels like you're working. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, but it does, right?
A little bit, yeah, but you don't really feel that it's the work you must do. You're not, that self-criticism is not there. When you come up with an idea and it's 10 in the evening and you're in the middle of watching a movie with your family, it's okay. It's okay to write it down and share it with them, and they're all happy for you. And you glue together, you piece together these moments when you know you're contributing to your own success and you're making things happen, and you just came up with something. It's actually very exciting. It doesn't feel like work at all. When I talk to clients and I see the outcome of it, I didn't feel like I'm working. I was working. Doesn't feel like it, actually, because it's just very aligned and connected with my heart and with what I believe in. So sometimes it makes me tear up, literally, when I describe about what I do. And then I realize it feels like I'm not doing anything, but I am doing it. And I am just sharing it, and I am giving my best out of me. So it doesn't feel like work anymore. Actually, it really doesn't. If you're doing really everything that you're doing and it comes from your heart, it's not about turn on, turn off. I think it's just who you are.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think if you love what you're doing, it's not going to feel like work, and you'll be able to do it whenever it comes to your mind. But I think in terms of like not burning out and keeping motivated, I think if we're speaking in that aspect, especially when, let's say, you are a person like me who has multiple jobs, greatest thing about hospitality industry, one of the greatest aspects, I think, is that our Mondays are Fridays, and nobody else is out on Monday. So I pick a day, and my one day a week, I totally turn off, whether that's putting my phone away or just spend time with my boyfriend or spend time with friends. Like, I have one complete day where there's no work, so that all the other days I can be 110% for 20 hours of that day, or however long you're up, depending on what you're doing that day. But I think, and in saying that, there's still times where in that day, if I feel like I want to work, or if I get that brilliant idea, I still go and do it. Like, the greatest part about being an entrepreneur is it's totally up to you. You get to be your own boss. You make your own hours.
Yeah.
You disagree?
No. I agree. I do think it's very. It's a good question because I don't have the answer, because I will be very honest. It is something that I'm struggling, not right now necessarily, but even in my career in corporate offices before, separating and life balance and all that. I think, yes, I really enjoy it, and I'm so passionate about it. When I said it does feel like work, I'm joking, because when I'm not working, really, I'm nowhere even near a computer. But I think I want to be very mindful of turning it off because of my family, because of my husband, of my son, my friends. I literally, by the end of November, had my friends saying, okay, stop talking about hotel.school.
I get that all the time too.
And also I want to be mindful. We're in lockdown. We spent a lot of time at home now, and not lockdown, but kind of at home all the time. And I want to make sure that when I'm with my son and with my husband, I am not doing hotel.school stuff. I don't have my computer or my phone like right here as I always had. I think also it's a different question if you are in hospitality. I think hospitality people are always 24/7, sense of urgency. But I think that I'm trying very hard to separate it. That said, there is so much to do that I do sometimes have like a ball in my stomach saying, oh my God, I should be waking up earlier. What's earlier than 5? No, but that's the time I go to. So I thank you guys for this question, because I don't have the answer, and I hope maybe I'll come back in a year and say there is a way. But I do find it a challenge. I love it. I'd rather do that than not, but it's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy for me.
I think it depends on, yourself, your circumstances, what you need, how it works, and just generally, it may vary, right? Sometimes you go, even in any sort of corporate full-time job you have, sometimes you have a period of intense work where you work 2 weeks full on, almost weekends and evenings, and then that campaign or whatever launch is finished, you can go back to working regular hours and you get the balance back again, and then you focus a bit more on yourself and such. So it can vary from time to time. Every day doesn't have to be perfectly balanced, and sometimes it's just a day. Yeah.
If I may add, I would like to add this, and I know, it's not Anna's or Marianna's case from what I understood, but I am very lucky that I actually am not alone, and I have an amazing team. And I think that trusting your team, and there's 4 of us, and there are times that, I have to go pick up my son, I have to go do, and there's times that someone else has something else to do, or they just, and I think that trusting that team, for me, is super important, and knowing that the competence is there. And second is knowing that it's not a short term, I need to be strong, resilient for the long run. I need to be here. So I think that makes you, with experience of, again, having worked, to preserve yourself a little bit. Like I hate sports analogies, but kind of like a marathon. I know that if I run like with full gas right now, by February, that's not going to be good for me, for my company, so I think that's a bit of that. Just wanted to share the load when you can, and sometimes you're lucky to be able to. So thank you to my team. I know they're watching. Love you guys.
Hello. Speaking of resilience, we've got a question from Erica as well. In terms of being currently in a pandemic, the industry has been very strongly impacted by it. What initiatives are you taking? Have you taken this past year to kind of survive? Ride the storm, she says. Anna, want to go ahead?
I love this question. I kind of have an interesting perspective from both sides, as well as like still working in the industry, like I said, as well as an entrepreneur. So as an entrepreneur, what I did was as soon as March hit, I totally pivoted, as well as pivoted some brands that I was working with. So like I said, I offer marketing and sales services to hospitality and event professionals. So at the time I had 2 bigger clients, and both of them are events focused, and I pivoted them to have virtual events. So I was working with a wedding DJ. He couldn't DJ anymore, and with weddings and everything. So we pivoted him to hold virtual concerts. We actually planned some charity events, and we did some really, really cool things. And then my other client, she used to do in-person wine tastings. She's now pivoted completely onto a virtual experience, and her business blew up. And with my services, I'm doing virtual event planning, virtual marketing, and I had to get really creative, as well as so did my clients, and we had to put our brains together. And it really went to show, because at the time it was like everyone needed these things, that now people are seeing the value behind it. You know, big offices are seeing they don't need big offices anymore. They can do things virtually, like speak on LinkedIn and everything like this. And so we really pivoted as much as we could, as soon as we could. And it's really, really helped us, as well as now people are seeing the different ways to do things. And then as still being in the industry, the venue I work for, we're actually using this quiet time to our advantage. So some of us have gone back to school. I currently, in the summer, I was in 3 or 4 different new courses. I got a couple certificates. We kind of use the quiet time that hospitality events industry is not used to whatsoever, especially in events where it's go, go, go every day. And we use that to our advantage. We've done renovations. Like I said, we've all been studying, and we've kind of used it to plan for, hopefully when this is over, whatever that new normal is. We've done a lot of planning and preparing for that.
That's fantastic. There's so many different ways to pivot, and I guess learning, like you said, is one of the things you can always do, especially if there is downtime. And it's good to see that you are employed. You can do that on hotel.school.
Yeah. I love that.
Exactly. But even if it's just, LinkedIn Learning or any sort of more short or even sort of not hospitality related stuff, you get to learn and not sit still, because I think the hardest part was for everyone when lockdowns hit first in March, April last year, was all of a sudden, what do you do? Especially in hospitality, you're used to working full on, on your feet or just long hours, and all of a sudden you're just sitting at home. That is difficult for the mind and the body, right? So it's a challenge. So it's good to hear there's so many different ways to pivot.
I heard pivot was one of the words of 2020, right?
Yes.
Definitely. I think Marianna wanted to say something.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to support what you said, but also from just a personal perspective, or rather than, when there is a point for everyone that you just don't know, you're stuck, you don't know how to drive it. Everything you used to do and used to use to grow your business or just to be successful, it's not under your control anymore, right? So focusing on what you can't control rather than what you can't, and just be out there. Say yes to everything. Say yes to every webinar, every a small interview, anywhere where you could participate and share who you are, and stay in the sight of everyone, being heard, being listened to, being able to speak your mind, what your heart says, being able to motivate and share and inspire, because it's the energy sharing that keeps us all going. It's the positivity sharing these days. Pandemic is not so harsh on us on a physical level. It's really harsh on us all on a mental level. So you just have to keep finding how to go, where to go. And for me personally, it's a year of planting seeds. You never know who you're going to talk to. You never know who you're going to meet. And you never know who will be that next person that will give you this crazy, amazing idea that you can work on in the next 2-3 months. Just like it was for me when I wrote my own book last year. People kept telling me, you should share your story. You should share your story. And it's like, okay, well, I'm not really a writer. English is my second language. And all of a sudden, it's just like, I just wrote it. If not now, when? So all these things come to you in the right time. You just have to grab them. And if you're not out there, if you're not putting yourself out there and trying and saying yes to everything, you'll never know what could be an opportunity for your either adventure or the entrepreneurial idea. And that being said.
Definitely. Take the opportunities as they come, and they will come in different shapes and forms, and you might be looking for something and it comes in a different sort of perspective in a way, and then you have to, I guess, just be open-minded, like you said, be open-minded to things that come your way. They may come in different colors. I've got 2 questions because we are kind of at the end of the panel discussion now. I've got 2 questions, one from the audience and one that I've got planned for you. So our audience question is, in terms of what's your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur? Patricia?
Well, that is very easy for me. My favorite thing is being able to set, to set a purpose for the business, to go after it, and to make sure that all of our actions are aligned in that. And in our case, for hotel.school, I don't want this to sound that I can add, but I'm so passionate about the fact that we want to make quality accessible to a wider audience. It is something that is traditionally very expensive and not for everyone. So not only we're selling courses, short courses that people can take now to learn, and this will really help them going back out there, or people who are, it's funny, we always talk about people who are unemployed, but there's a lot of people now who are in positions, and they are super overwhelmed because they now have 3 jobs. So helping those people. And on top of that, we're also giving away free courses and free scholarships, because I do believe education is a way to get out of crisis, wherever crisis it is. And giving and helping this and giving these scholarships and these courses for free. I have to say, we started our Swiss Master Hotelier program, which is our year-long program, and offering scholarships. And I got a text, this was about a month ago, from someone who, I was an intern, so this is going back a good almost 16 years, in Chicago. And this lady was our overnight manager. She had 5 kids. Her husband worked, so they never saw each other. She worked overnight, her husband days. And I remember her saying she never had a chance to do, she would have never imagined that she would have a Swiss education. And then 15 years later, she writes to me to say, oh my God, I see what you're doing. Of course, she applied, and of course, we gave her a scholarship, and she's starting now, and she's just so happy. And this is exactly the people that I want to help. Again, is doing well by doing good and being able to follow through with that. It really literally gives me chills. We're not talking anymore about personas. I'm talking about specific people that we're helping, and seeing that, it's, having that message. Carmen, if you're probably not watching because you're in Chicago, you don't wake up at 5 anymore, but yes, things like that, saying congratulations for doing this. Thank you. This is the skill that I need. I've never been given this. Yes, that is definitely my favorite part.
That's amazing. Having that purpose and have it drive you. It's all you need, I would say, to succeed as an entrepreneur.
It feels right.
Yeah, that's good. That's amazing. What about you, Anna?
I wouldn't say there's one thing, but I would say there's several things. I guess being my own boss is a great thing, creating my own content, getting to make decisions, and then inspiring people. And kind of like Patricia was saying, it's kind of the people, not only your team, but the people you get to work with, connecting with people like you guys. I love that fact, because I surprise myself sometimes where I don't expect to be inspiring others. Just last year, I had a 17-year-old girl. She was looking into college, and she approached me and said, I want to know what you did. And I said, I was taken back. I was like, what? Like, kind of like, I almost said why, but I just said, oh, really? And she said, I want to know what you did because I want to be like you. And I'm like, that was like a crazy, I guess, aha moment for me too, just going back to what we were saying in the beginning, because I was like, I didn't even know this person had been watching me, following me, looking up to me. And she goes, I want to be in exactly your position in 5 years. And she's like, so where did you go? What did you do? And then we ended up connecting, and she's like a great girl, and she's going to school for hospitality.
That's perfect. I think that's something also that happens to me when people reach out to me on Savvy Hotelier, and they're like, oh, help me with this. And I always write really long answers and answer a bit too much. I'm like, I just want to help. I want to share what I can.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes we live with this knowledge, but we don't realize people need this information. And we can inspire others with it, just being ourselves and sharing our stories. Marianna, what about you? What's your favorite thing?
I think 2 main big things. One is freedom, and second one is flexibility. So similarly to what Patricia and Anna said, having the freedom to decide where and how you're going to contribute, and having the flexibility. You decide about everything, what you do whole day, every day. The main part, I think, my favorite part is the outcome of what I do. It is absolutely purposeful. I know my why every single day I wake up. I know why I'm doing that. And the reason I know it is because there's happy clients right there. Just when I least expect it, there is a great review of my book on my website. Oh, okay, I have a notification. And then when I read the words of the clients and what that book meant for them and how it moves them forward, I tear up again. I'm just happy. It just reminds me, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm here. This is exactly why I know that I'm doing this right. And that is just everything. That kind of throws away worries about risking, that throws away what that income at the end of the month will be. It throws away everything. When you know why you're doing that, and when that purpose is strong enough for you to keep going, when you have that direct interaction with your client and you see how you were able to change their lives, like I do with coaching sessions, or even on a business level when I set up hospitality companies for success with processes and kind of help them really to grow, go to the next level. And when I see where they were before and where they are after, that's all I need. That's the favorite part of every day. Even on the days when nothing major happens, something actually really happens, because you're being you and you're promoting who you are, and you know what you're exactly doing, how it's helping everybody else, how it's contributing to society, how it's changing people's lives. When you have the ability to do that, nothing else matters.
Fantastic. Perfect answers. I couldn't have scripted it better myself. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. I've got a last question that I want to kind of ask also all of you, in terms of what is the one tip that you want to share for those starting out or curious about being an entrepreneur, or being more like an entrepreneur, like intrapreneur, like we talked about. Kind of hoping to answer that last question from Nadia as well. In terms of, is there any tip for those starting out or curious to starting out that you recommend? Is it just being yourself, or is there something more practical that you have in mind that you think, well, this thing did it for me? And anything you wanna, any one thing.
I can go first.
Sorry, Anna, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my tip for students, speaking like directly to students or anybody that's looking to get into a field or grow or become an entrepreneur, whatever you're looking to, is, dream big, be ambitious. I like to kind of reverse engineer things. So think of your dream lifestyle or your ideal lifestyle and reverse engineer it. Start at the end and work backwards. And then you're going to end up finding the things that you need to do to make that happen. And you'll be able to plan it. And you might even find out that you're an entrepreneur in between.
Perfect. Patricia?
I think having a clear objective, learning to prioritize, because you're not going to be able to do everything. And if you are able to surround yourself with a team or another person, I think that is key. And Nadia, I think, asked also, do you still need to pitch now that you have brands? Always be ready to pitch. I am a salesperson since I can remember myself being, always be ready to pitch. I think you can be the CEO of Apple. You can be a little person starting your own business of, I don't know, baking cookies. We have to always be ready to talk about our business and what we do.
Fantastic. Marianna, last words?
Just a few tips from me. I'm not going to say this because I'm a coach and I believe in coaching. I believe in mentoring as well. I believe in having accountability partner. But yes, have those people, surround yourself by these people. Your accountability partner could be someone, could be anyone you share your aspirations with. Share it, say it, put it out there. When I started my own business, I didn't know how to do all the things that it entitled, that starting the business entitled. But I shared it. I spoke to friends. I reconnected with old friends. I asked, do you think this? How do you think? And everyone that's your fan, everyone that knows you and knows your drive, knows your passion, actually will tell you. So before I knew it, I had a line of accountants I could speak to just to get an information. Before I knew it, I had a branding guy that was dying to do the logo and the development of my idea, the purpose into. Before I knew it, I had this and this. Trust the humans around you, and they will help you receive that help that's out there by sharing your aspirations, by sharing your passion, and then have that coach or mentor that holds your hand through your journey. Because at the end of the day, I think, what it was for me is I closed my eyes and I thought of, if I imagine, okay, I'll ask you that directly. Imagine you were the entrepreneur. What would you be doing? How would your life be looking like right now? And then the next question is very inevitable, and it's very clear. What's stopping you from doing that? And when you actually write down these answers, you get that clarity, and there's nothing that's going to be stopping you. So that would just be my advice, envision what would you be doing if you were the entrepreneur, if there were no tons of obstacles, and create that roadmap. And it's one step at a time, one day at a time. Every day you're one step away from living a completely different life.
Can I add one little thing that I think it's important, at least for me, is you have to be shameless. I am a pretty confident, maybe bordering a little bit on overconfident, and it's still, for me, it's hard sometimes to post some things, because especially in the beginning, you are your own brand. We don't have hundreds of people talking about us in the beginning, so you have to constantly post it. You have to ask for business. You have to promote it, and sometimes it does look like an ad. So I think you have to be shameless, but also strong enough, because, sometimes social media, right? People will comment, and not every comment sometimes is positive. I've only had positive comments so far, but luckily, but I'm prepared if someone says, this sucks or whatever, I didn't like your panel. I think you need to bulletproof yourself a little bit. And I think corporate is excellent for that.
Yeah. My favorite piece of advice I got when I was first starting hospitality, and I still think of it every day, is just have thick skin and a positive mind, and you're going to kill them with kindness. And to this day, I realized the other day that I have a pretty thick skin, but it can never be thick enough.
There's the point.
You never know. It may come at you at a day when you feel quite vulnerable, and it hits you in a different way. That is true. And it happens whether you're an entrepreneur or not. If you think you're doing great at your job and all of a sudden something goes wrong because you forgot or messed up, or it's not even your fault, but it becomes your fault, it really hurts. And you just have to kind of go with the flow, breathe in, breathe out, and move on.
Yeah, remember your why and stay positive. Sometimes people tell me I'm too positive, but I don't believe that. You can never be too positive.
I agree.
You have to be your own positive source, and not rely on so much others. Yeah. Well, we can carry on, but we are already at 1 hour mark. So thank you so much, all three of you, for joining. Thank you all for asking questions, for participating in an amazing discussion. This was the second episode in this Discover Hospitality series. The next one is on events. Next week, Thursday, same time, same place. The link to register for that, so you get a reminder, is in the chat. So make sure you pop that there. Share it with all your friends and your colleagues, and get as many people to come, because we want to have a fantastic discussion. I think events is an interesting industry that's kind of been hardly affected, but also really is the first one to properly pivot. This definition of pivot is the events industry. So we'll have a look at that next week and what kind of careers we've got there. For now, thank you everybody for joining, and have a good rest of the day, evening, morning, wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.